Welcome to the JB podcast. Today, we're talking about something that hits different: heartbreak. Not just the surface level stuff, but the raw, gut-wrenching reality of it, and more importantly, how to navigate through it in ways you might not have considered. Charles Bukowski once said something that really hits home when you're dealing with heartbreak. What matters most is how well you walk through the fire, and that's exactly what we're going to learn today. How to walk through this fire with purpose, even when every step hurts. First, let's address something that nobody talks about. The physical pain is real. That's not just you being dramatic. Scientists have found that heartbreak activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. That's why it quite literally hurts. Understanding this is important because it validates what you're feeling. Your brain is literally going through withdrawal, similar to drug addiction, because love activates the same reward centers in your brain. Here's something counterintuitive that most people won't tell you. Don't try to rush through the pain. Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron has this beautiful concept called staying with the uncomfortable. She says, the healing comes from letting there be room for all of this to happen. Room for grief, for relief, for misery, for joy. Now let's talk about some practical strategies that go beyond the usual hit the gym advice, though we'll get to why that's actually more powerful than you might think. Here's an unexpected tip. Create a heartbreak playlist, but not the one you're thinking of. Instead of sad breakup songs, fill it with songs from a time in your life before you met them. This helps your brain reconnect with your pre-relationship identity. It's a psychological anchor to remind you who you were before them, and more importantly, who you can be again. Maya Angelou said, "You may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated." Speaking of which, let's talk about something called temporal distancing. It's a psychological technique where you write a letter to yourself from the future, maybe 5 years ahead, looking back at this moment. What would that future you want to tell current you? This creates emotional distance and perspective. Here's a powerful physical exercise. It's called emotional release training. When you're working out, assign each set or exercise to a specific emotion or memory you need to process. As you perform the movement, visualize yourself physically releasing that emotion. It's not just exercise, it's ritualistic emotional processing. Let me share something Friedrich Nietzsche said that's particularly relevant. The snake which cannot cast its skin has to die. As well, the minds which are prevented from changing their opinions, they cease to be mind. Another tip, create a relationship autopsy document. But here's the twist. You're not allowed to write about what they did wrong. Instead, analyze your own patterns, choices, and growth opportunities. What did this relationship teach you about yourself? What patterns do you need to break? This isn't about blame, it's about evolution. You need to take accountability for what has gone on, and your part, once you do this, the steps forward become a little easier. Here's something rarely discussed. The power of scent in emotional recovery. Our olfactory system is directly linked to emotional memory. Create new scent associations. Buy a new perfume or cologne you've never worn before, a new fabric softener, even a new toothpaste. This helps your brain create new neural pathways and memories separate from your ex. It might sound silly, but remember, you are rebuilding a new and better life for yourself. So new things need to be implemented. Rumi has this beautiful quote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." This leads to another strategy, the growth portfolio. Document your healing journey not just through journaling, but through any medium that speaks to you. Paint, take photos, write songs, work out, whatever helps you externalize and track your growth. Later, this becomes tangible proof of your journey. This can also be used to keep you accountable. Here's a psychological hack that's particularly effective. Use the empty chair technique with a twist. Set up 2 chairs. In one, you sit as present you. In the other, imagine not your ex, but your future self, who's healed and thriving. Have a conversation between these 2 versions of yourself. What does your future self want you to know? Where do you see your future self? And what can you do in this current moment to get closer to that person? Ever heard of chronotherapy? It's about resetting your circadian rhythms. Heartbreak often disrupts our sleep patterns, which affects everything else. Instead of fighting insomnia, use these early morning or late night hours for something specific to your healing. The world is quieter then, and you can turn these lonely hours into sacred time for rebuilding. Use these hours to set your goals, reflect on your day, meditate, or just watch the film you've been wanting to see. Oscar Wilde said, "Hearts are meant to be broken." That's how they get stronger. Building on this, let's discuss the concept of post-traumatic growth. Sometimes the breaking of your heart can lead to its expansion. This pain you're feeling, it's creating space for something bigger. Here's another practical tip. Create a heartbreak budget. Set aside money you would have spent on or with your ex. But here's the twist. Use it exclusively for experiences that push you out of your comfort zone. Learn something completely new, something they would never have done with you. Spend money on rebuilding yourself. Buy some new clothes, plan some activities like jumping out of a plane, if that excites you. Before we wrap up, let me share one final quote from Andrea Gibson. When you're missing someone so much that you can't breathe, it's okay to look at their pictures, but remember to look at your own too. Remember, heartbreak is not just an ending, it's also a beginning. Your heart isn't broken, it's breaking open to become something more. A little quote I once heard which stuck with me is, maybe when everything feels like it's falling apart, maybe it's falling together. That's all for today's episode of the JB podcast. If you're going through heartbreak right now, know that you're not alone and this pain is not permanent. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.